I am the famous American. I've had this epiphany that I need to share with you. So let's face it, one of the reoccurring comments I receive on this channel and have throughout the years is people outside of the United States get frustrated with me and Americans in general, people in the United States of America, because we don't know much about world geography. And more frustrating is that we don't care about world geography. And people will say in the comments that our government has failed us. Our teachers, our schools have failed us because we cannot look on a map and tell you exactly where Belarus is, if that's even how you pronounce it. See, we don't know and we don't care. And of course, that's like pouring gasoline on the fire, isn't it? Because it only adds this concept that Americans are not only ignorant, but they're also arrogant. Okay, and I've explained before, if you lived in the United States, you only have two neighbors. Above you have Canada, which we jokingly refer to as the 51st state. And then we've got Mexico below us. Those are our neighbors. We're otherwise isolated from the rest of the world. And the reality is, unlike so many other countries in the world who are surrounded by other countries, we're just surrounded by other states. So to us, that's about as exotic as it gets. Cross the state line or go to a different region of the United States. But that's about it. So I've tried to explain that ultimately, and for me, a 40-year-old man, okay, if I was better at geography, would it improve my life at all? I don't see how it would. Now, to be fair, I have traveled the world. A stereotype about Americans is that we not only don't know about the rest of the world, but we haven't actually traveled. To be clear, for the record, here's where I've traveled and I've spent time. Thailand, I taught 2 summers there when I was in college, taught English there, as well as Korea. I've also been to New Zealand. I've been to Ecuador, Trinidad and Tobago, and if it counts, I've been to Canada a few times. So I have traveled the world, and I've never been to Europe, but I've actually traveled farther than that multiple times. So I have traveled the world. I've seen the rest of the world, and I love the rest of the world, I do. But my quality of life actually improving because I know world geography and can look up certain countries and on a map and know where they are or know about them. No. And I think that frustrates especially Europeans because they're like, well, if we need to know about the rest of the world, so should you. But as an American, my quality of life does not improve because I know, to us, it's just trivia. Okay. So with that being said, I was watching this comedian and he was comparing the United States to a hot girl that doesn't need other people she doesn't need to know about other people, but they all know who she is, kind of thing. And I do feel that that's a good explanation of the United States. We don't really need to know a whole lot about the rest of the world in order to function and to thrive and to have a good life. But if you live in the rest of the world, you're well aware of the United States. And I always think it's interesting that people love to say that Americans are ignorant and arrogant, yet they love our culture. People love our culture. I mean, movies and music alone, that has a lot to do with it. We make the famous movies here, and we make the most famous music as well. And we are cool. Now granted, yes, people love to make fun of us, but ultimately there's something cool about us. And even in Asian culture, there's something about Western culture, specifically American culture, that is pretty cool and interesting. So I think when I watched that comedian and he explained that we're basically, of the world, the hot girl, the pretty girl who everybody knows who she is, but she doesn't really need to know who else everybody else is. It's not a parallel relationship. I'm not saying that I agree with it. And I'm not really, in my mind, even defending it. I'm explaining like, hey, here's a reasonable explanation. Here's why this happens. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying that it does exist. Can anybody back me up and actually agree with me on this? Or is it easier to say that I'm arrogant and ignorant because I made this video? You decide in the comments right here.